I used to make coffee in my sunny kitchen every morning, wearing my favorite cotton robe, watching my husband Mark smile at me across the breakfast table. My younger sister Cassie would drop by to borrow things always when Mark was home. Sunday dinners filled our lives with laughter, family group chats pinged constantly, and my parents doted on both their daughters equally. We looked like the perfect American family. Then one Tuesday morning, I found Mark's phone unlocked on the counter, and a single message destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I loved most. Before I tell you what I found on that screen, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt that gut punch of betrayal, hit that like button so I know I am not alone. And subscribe, because this story has a turn you will not see coming. Now let me take you back to the moment my entire world collapsed. I met Mark 8 years ago at the University of Michigan. He was studying architecture and I was deep into graphic design coursework. Our first date was at this small Italian restaurant in Ann Arbor, and he remembered I was allergic to shellfish before I even had to mention it. That tiny detail made me feel seen in a way I had never experienced before. 3 years ago, we got married in my parents' backyard in Ohio. Nothing fancy, just close family and friends, string lights hanging from the old oak trees, and my grandmother's quilt draped over our gift table. We bought a 2-bedroom house together about 40 minutes outside of Cleveland. Mark designed the kitchen himself, spent weeks picking out the right tile, the perfect cabinet hardware. I worked as a freelance graphic designer from home, which gave me a flexible schedule. He was a junior partner at an architecture firm downtown, putting in long hours but loving every minute of it. Our rhythm felt easy. Morning coffee together, texting throughout the day. Friday date nights that we protected fiercely. My family was everything to me. I was the older sister, the responsible one who always had it together. Cassie, 4 years younger at 28, was the free spirit. She bounced between jobs, between boyfriends, between ideas of who she wanted to be. My parents, Robert and Linda, were traditional Midwestern folks who believed family came first always. Sunday dinners at their house were mandatory, not that I ever minded. We were close. Or so I thought. About 6 months before everything fell apart, Cassie broke up with her boyfriend of 2 years. She moved back home with our parents, temporarily said she needed time to figure things out. I wanted to help. I let her borrow my car when hers was in the shop. I connected her with some of my freelance contacts who might have worked for her. I was the supportive big sister, the role I had always played. 3 months before I found those messages, Cassie started dropping by our house more often. 2, sometimes 3 times a week. She needed to use our printer because theirs was broken. She forgot her phone charger. She wanted to borrow a dress for a job interview. Every excuse seemed reasonable on its own, but looking back, I noticed a pattern I had dismissed at the time. She only ever came by when Mark was home from work. Mark started working late more often too. What used to be once or twice a week became 4, sometimes 5 nights. He would text me around 6 saying he had to finish up a project, would not be home until 9 or 10. When he did come home, he seemed distant. We used to be affectionate, always touching, always connected. Suddenly he was too tired, too stressed about work deadlines. Our intimacy disappeared gradually, so slowly I barely noticed until it was gone. I remember one specific evening I walked into our living room and found Mark and Cassie sitting close together on the couch. They stopped talking abruptly when I entered. Cassie's face flushed red. Mark smiled at me, casual as anything, and said they were just discussing her job search, that he had some contacts who might help. I felt a twist in my stomach, something uncomfortable and unfamiliar. But I pushed it down. I felt guilty for even being suspicious of my own sister. Mark was just being a good brother-in-law, I told myself. Cassie was going through a hard time. I was reading into things that were not there. Except there was this one small detail that nagged at me. Cassie started wearing this specific perfume, a vanilla and sandalwood scent that Mark had once mentioned he really liked. When I asked her about it, she said she just wanted to try something new. Then came that Tuesday morning in late September. The leaves were just starting to turn and the sun was streaming through our kitchen windows. It was one of those perfect autumn days that makes you grateful to be alive. Mark left early for a meeting downtown, kissed me on the forehead, told me he loved me. Normal. Everything felt completely normal. I was working at the kitchen table designing a logo for a local coffee shop when I heard a buzz from the counter. Mark's phone. He had forgotten it, which was rare. The screen lit up with a text notification, and because he had recently changed his passcode but somehow forgot to lock the phone this time, I could see everything. The message preview showed a contact saved as C with a heart emoji. The text read, "Last night was amazing. Cannot stop thinking about you." My hands started shaking. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Nausea rolled through my stomach in waves. I knew I should not look. I knew it was an invasion of privacy. But something deep in my gut told me I needed to see what was on that phone. I opened the messages. Months of conversations between Mark and Cassie filled the screen. I scrolled and scrolled, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. Explicit texts. Photos I will never be able to unsee. Plans to meet up carefully coordinated around my schedule. The timeline in the messages showed this had been going on for 4 months, starting right after Cassie's breakup. They had been together in our house in our guest bedroom while I was at client meetings. They met at a hotel downtown on the nights Mark said he was working late. They even had sex in Cassie's childhood bedroom at my parents' house in the room right next to where my mother and father slept. But the messages that destroyed me were not the explicit ones. Those were painful, but I could have almost understood physical betrayal in some twisted way. What broke something fundamental inside me were the messages where they talked about me. Cassie wrote, "She has no idea. She is so trusting it is almost sad." Mark responded, "I know. Sometimes I feel guilty, but then I see you and I forget everything else." There were messages coordinating their meetup specifically around my work schedule. Cassie would text, "She has that client meeting Thursday at 2. Mark would respond, "My place." I will leave the back door unlocked. I sat at that kitchen table and took photos of everything with my own phone. Screenshot after screenshot, scrolling back through months of lies. I found calendar coordination matching every single one of Mark's late work nights. I discovered Venmo transactions where he had paid for hotel rooms' expensive dinners. I found a shared photo album hidden in his cloud storage full of pictures of them together, intimate moments, their faces happy and relaxed. Their first time was in my own guest bedroom while I was at a client meeting. I could see the date in the messages. I remembered that day. I had come home and Mark was there, said he had come home early from work because he was not feeling well. Cassie had been there too, said she stopped by to return a book. They had both hugged me. I had made them tea. The messages revealed discussions about birth control, about when they might tell me, about what they would do if I found out. Cassie wrote in one message, "I have always been jealous of what you two had. Now I have you." Mark replied, "You are nothing like your sister. That is what I love about you. But the one that made me physically sick, the one I will remember until the day I die, was Cassie writing. She spent our whole childhood being the perfect one. The responsible one. The one everyone praised. Finally, something that is mine." I made a decision right there at my kitchen table, tears streaming down my face, my whole body shaking. I would not confront them until I had a plan. I would not be the hysterical wife, the shocked sister. I would be smart. I would protect myself. That afternoon, I contacted a divorce attorney. I had a consultation scheduled for the next day. I started documenting our joint assets, checking bank statements, making lists of everything we owned together. When Mark came home that evening, I said nothing. I smiled. I asked about his day. I was calm. Inside, I was dying, but he saw nothing. 3 days later, on Friday evening, I was ready. I had met with the attorney. Separation papers were drafted. I had opened a bank account in my name only and transferred exactly half of our joint savings. I had my evidence organized. I had my plan. When Mark came home from work, I asked him to sit down. I said I needed to talk to him about something important. He looked casual. Unsuspecting, asked if everything was okay. I placed my phone on the coffee table between us, showing the message thread between him and Cassie. For 2 seconds he looked confused. Then recognition hit and his face went completely pale. He tried to deny it. "That is not what it looks like," he said. Then he got angry. "You went through my phone like I was the one who had done something wrong." Then came the deflection. "You have been so distant," he said. "Always working. I needed connection." I asked him to stop lying. My voice was ice-cold calm in a way that surprised even me. He broke down then, admitted everything, said it just happened that he was weak, that Cassie was vulnerable, and he made a terrible mistake. He begged for forgiveness, tears running down his face. I asked him 2 questions. How many times in our bed he hesitated, then whispered, "Twice." "Do you love her?" There was a long pause. Too long. Then he said, "I do not know." That pause told me everything I needed to know. I stood up and said, "I want you out of this house tonight." He was shocked. He thought we would talk, go to counseling, work through it. I handed him the separation agreement my attorney had prepared. I told him my lawyer would be contacting his. He tried everything. Tears, promises to end things with Cassie immediately, begging on his knees for another chance. I looked at him and said, "You did not just betray me. You destroyed the one person who trusted you completely. Get out." He packed a bag, kept trying to talk to me, but I had nothing left to say. He left around 9 that night. After his car pulled out of the driveway, I collapsed on the kitchen floor and sobbed for an hour straight. Not because I wanted him back, because everything I thought was real had been a lie. The next morning, Saturday, I drove to my parents' house. It was 10 in the morning and I knew they would all be there for their usual family breakfast. I needed to do this all at once, rip the bandage off completely. My mother answered the door with a huge smile. "Ella, what a nice surprise." "Where is Mark?" My father was at the table reading the newspaper, and there was Cassie sitting in her usual chair drinking coffee. When she saw my face, all the color drained from hers. She knew. I stood in the doorway of their dining room and said, "I need to tell you all something. Mark and I are getting divorced." My mother gasped. My father put down his newspaper, looked at me with concern. "Why, honey? What happened?" I looked directly at Cassie when I said it, because he has been having an affair. With Cassie. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. My father looked between me and Cassie, confusion on his face. My mother's hand went to her mouth. Cassie started crying immediately. "I am so sorry," she said. "It just happened. We did not mean for it to happen." My mother turned to her. "Cassie, tell me this is not true. Tell me you did not do this." Cassie admitted it through her tears. Said she fell in love with him. Said they did not mean to hurt me, like that made any difference. I looked at my sister and said, "You had sex with my husband in my house. In this house, in your childhood bedroom. And you did not mean to hurt me." My father tried to interrupt. "Let us all calm down and talk about this rationally." My mother was crying now too, asking Cassie how she could do this to her own sister. Then my father said something that changed everything. "Ella, I know you are hurt, but Cassie is family. We need to find a way to forgive." My mother added, "Maybe you and Mark were having problems we did not know about. These things happen in marriages." I could not believe what I was hearing. They were making excuses for her. Right there, right in front of me, they were making excuses. My mother actually suggested that maybe in time my sister and I could work through this. That we had always been close. My father said Cassie made a mistake, but she is your sister. Family is forever. You girls will get through this. Not one of them asked how I was feeling. Not one of them told Cassie what she did was unforgivable. They were comforting her while she cried, and I was standing there, the victim of her betrayal, being told to forgive. I looked at my parents and said, "You are choosing her. After what she did, you are choosing her." They protested. "We are not choosing anyone. We love you both. You are both our daughters." I said, "Then you have lost me." I walked out of that house and never looked back. They called after me, but I got in my car and drove away. Their calls and texts came flooding in within minutes. I ignored every single one. That same Saturday afternoon, I channeled every ounce of my devastation into action. I blocked Cassie's number. I blocked my parents' numbers. I blocked Mark's number from every device I owned. I went through social media and deleted every family photo, unfriended Cassie. Unfriended, my parents removed my relationship status entirely. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed on my house. By 4 that afternoon, Mark could not get back in even if he tried. I called my best friend from college, Maya, who lived in Seattle. I told her everything. She booked a flight that same day and arrived Sunday evening. She stayed with me for 2 weeks, held me while I cried, made me eat when I did not want to, reminded me I was going to survive this. Monday morning, I met with my attorney again. We accelerated the divorce proceedings. I learned that in our state, adultery actually affects asset division. Mark's infidelity worked in my favor legally. Over the weekend, Mark had tried to contact me 17 times from different phone numbers using friends' phones to get around the block. 12 text messages all saying the same things. "Please talk to me. I made a mistake. I love you." My attorney sent a cease and desist letter. All communication had to go through lawyers from that point forward. I removed Mark from all our joint credit cards. I separated our phone plan. I divided up the utilities. I was methodical, clinical, efficient. Then I made a bigger decision. There was a contract position in Denver I had turned down 2 months earlier. They wanted someone on site, not fully remote, and I had not wanted to leave Ohio. I contacted them and asked if the position was still available. It was. I accepted it. I gave myself 2 months to wrap up my life here and start completely over. Cassie tried to show up at my house twice. I watched through the window as she knocked on the door, crying, calling my name. I did not answer. I did not feel anything. My parents tried too. They sent letters in the mail. They showed up at my house. My mother's message said, "You are being unreasonable. Cassie feels terrible. We are a family. We need to work through this." My father's letter said, "You need to forgive. That is what Christians do. That is what our faith teaches." I realized they wanted me to make it easy for them. They wanted me to forgive so they did not have to deal with the mess, with the fracture in the family. They wanted me to be the bigger person like I had always been. The divorce took 3 months total. Mark's attorney tried to argue for a reconciliation period, some time for us to consider counseling. My attorney shut that down immediately. I wanted nothing but out. We divided assets. The house was in my name because I had used my inheritance from my grandmother as the down payment and I could prove it. Mark fought it at first, then gave up. The settlement was clean. I kept the house, my car, all my business assets, half of our savings. Mark kept his car, his retirement account, his personal belongings. No alimony either way since we both had careers. We were required to have one face-to-face meeting to sign the final papers at the attorney's office. Mark looked terrible. He had lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, looked like he had not slept in weeks. He tried to talk to me while we waited. "Ella, please just listen for 1 minute." I looked at him and said, "Sign the papers." He persisted. "I know I destroyed everything. I hate myself for what I did. Cassie and I are not even together anymore." It meant nothing. I felt absolutely nothing when he said that. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. I told him I do not care what you do with your life anymore. We signed the papers. 4 months after I found those messages, I was officially divorced. Extended family started taking sides. Aunts, uncles, cousins heard the story, and most of them sided with me once they knew the truth. But some said I was being too harsh, cutting off my parents entirely. They said family was important, that I should not let this destroy all my relationships. My parents escalated their attempts to contact me. They started showing up at my freelance clients' offices, which was completely humiliating. My mother caused a scene at a coffee shop where I was meeting with a potential client begging me to come home for Thanksgiving to please just talk to her. I filed for a restraining order based on harassment. It was granted. My Denver position started remotely for the first month, then I would relocate. Maya flew back to help me pack up the house. I listed it for sale and it sold within 3 weeks. The market was hot and I priced it to move fast. Walking through those rooms for the last time was harder than I expected. Every space held memories. The kitchen where Mark had kissed me goodbye on what I thought were normal mornings. The guest bedroom where he had betrayed me with my sister. The living room where we had talked about having kids someday. I kept my grandmother's quilt. I kept my design equipment, my books, my car. I kept Cooper, my golden retriever, who had been my constant companion through everything. I left behind furniture Mark had picked out. I donated or trashed our wedding photos. Anything that hurt to look at, I got rid of. My last week in Ohio, I stayed with Maya's mom in a different town, avoiding any chance of running into anyone I knew. But on my second to last day, I ran into Cassie at a grocery store. Complete accident. I was in the produce section and there she was looking disheveled and tired. She saw me and started walking toward me. "Ella, please," she said. "I miss you. I miss my sister." I turned around and walked away without saying a single word. She called after me, "I know you will never forgive me, but I need you to know I am sorry. I need you to know I regret everything." I kept walking. I did not look back. Move day came. I packed a U-Haul with everything I was taking to my new life. Cooper sat in the passenger seat of my car. I started driving west toward Colorado, watching Ohio disappear in my rearview mirror. When I crossed the state line, I felt something shift inside me. I was leaving behind everything I had known, everyone I had loved, the entire life I had built. I was terrified, but I was also free. I arrived in Denver on a clear October afternoon with the mountains visible in the distance. My new apartment was small, just one bedroom, but it had a view of the Rockies from the living room window. That first month was lonely. I cried some nights, missing the life I thought I had, grieving the family I thought I knew. But I also felt this strange lightness, like I could finally breathe fully for the first time in years. Work was good. The tech company I joined was small and friendly. People appreciated my design skills, gave me interesting projects, treated me with respect. I made a friend quickly, a coworker named Jordan, who was non-binary, worked as a graphic novelist on the side, and had the best dry sense of humor I had ever encountered. Jordan invited me to a local art gallery opening about 6 weeks after I moved. I hesitated. I had not socialized in months, had not felt like being around people. But something made me say yes. I went to that gallery opening and met Jordan's whole friend group. Artists, creatives, people who talked about ideas and projects and dreams. I laughed that night, genuinely laughed for the first time in 6 months. I started building a routine. Morning hikes with Cooper before work. Yoga classes on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. The farmer's market on Saturday mornings where I bought fresh flowers and vegetables and talked to the vendors who started recognizing me. Small things that made Denver feel like home. I also started therapy. I found a counselor who specialized in betrayal trauma and family dysfunction. Through our sessions, I learned about family scapegoating, about golden child dynamics, about patterns I had never recognized in my own childhood. I realized Cassie had always been jealous. I realized my parents had always excused her behavior while expecting me to be perfect, to be the responsible one, to never cause problems. Throughout my childhood, when Cassie made mistakes, they were minimized. When I made even small errors, I was held to a much higher standard. I had always been expected to be the bigger person, to understand, to forgive. The pattern had been there my whole life. I had just never seen it clearly until now. Healing was not linear. Some days I felt strong and confident. Other days I grieved what I thought I had, the family I believed in, the marriage I thought was solid. 6 months into living in Denver, I started dating casually. Nothing serious, just coffee dates with people I met through friends or work. I learned slowly that I could trust my judgment again, that not everyone was going to betray me. My career grew. I was promoted to senior designer, started leading projects, mentoring junior designers. I found community in a book club, a hiking group, a pottery class at the community center. The person I became in Denver was different from who I had been in Ohio. I was more guarded, yes, but also more authentic. I knew my boundaries and I held them like steel. 3 years passed. I turned 35. I was a senior creative director by then, living in a bigger apartment with Cooper dating someone kind named Alex, who I had met through my hiking group. We were taking things slow, both of us carrying our own past hurts, both of us learning to trust again. Then one Thursday afternoon, I got an email from my father. The subject line said, "Please read this." My first instinct was to delete it without opening it. I had not heard from my parents in over 2 years, not since the restraining order expired and they finally stopped trying to contact me. But something made me click on it. The email was long. My father wrote that he had a health scare, a heart attack that he recovered from, but that served as a wake-up call. My mother was struggling with depression on medication, barely leaving the house. Cassie had moved to a different state, had gone through multiple failed relationships, and rarely contacted them either. But the core of the email was this: I was wrong. I see that now. We failed you when you needed us most. He wrote. We were cowards who chose the easier path. Cassie was falling apart and you seemed strong, so we supported her instead of doing what was right. We taught her she could escape consequences. We lost both our daughters by trying to keep both. He was not asking for forgiveness. He said that explicitly. He was asking if I would be willing to talk. He had attached a separate letter from my mother. I opened it with shaking hands. She had written her own apology. She acknowledged that they chose comfort over justice. She admitted they failed me as parents. She wrote, "You deserved parents who protected you. We failed to do that. I am not asking you to forgive us. I am asking you to know that we understand what we did." I sat with those emails for 2 weeks. I did not respond. I talked about it in therapy, processed what I was feeling. The anger I expected was not there anymore. I had done so much work on myself that the rage had burned out, leaving something more complicated behind. I did not need their apology to be whole. I had already become whole on my own. But maybe I wanted to see if some kind of reconnection was possible on my terms. I sent my father a brief email agreeing to one phone call. We scheduled it for a Sunday afternoon. When my phone rang, I almost did not answer, but I did. His voice sounded older, shakier than I remembered. We were awkward at first, neither of us knowing quite what to say. Then he started talking, really talking. He said I was a coward. I am ashamed of how we handled everything. You deserved so much better from us. My mother got on the line too. She was crying, apologizing, but not making excuses. That was what struck me. They were not asking me to forgive Cassie. They were not asking me to reunite the family. They were not pressuring me about anything. I told them I am not ready to have you back in my life fully. Maybe someday. Maybe not. I need you to understand that. My father said, "Whatever you are willing to give us, we are grateful for. Any contact at all is more than we deserve." I asked about Cassie testing them. I said I have nothing to say about her. That door is closed permanently. They respected that. They did not push. They did not suggest that maybe someday Cassie and I could reconcile. They accepted my boundary completely. We talked for 45 minutes that first call. It was strange and painful and also somehow healing in a small way. Now, a year and a half after that first phone call, I email with my parents about once a month. We talk on the phone every few months. They visited Denver once and we met for coffee. It was uncomfortable but honest. Our relationship will never be what it was. I will never trust them the way I did before. But it is something real, built on accountability rather than pretense. I have no contact with Cassie and never will. That boundary is permanent. I am at complete peace with that decision. I heard through a mutual friend that Mark got married again and has a baby. When I heard that news, I felt absolutely nothing. not anger, not sadness, not even curiosity. True indifference. That is when I knew I had fully moved on. Sitting here now looking back on everything that happened, I can say this: the betrayal did not break me. It freed me from people who did not deserve me. I learned that I can survive anything. My own strength surprised me. I learned that some people will always choose the path of least resistance even when the right path is clear. I learned that you cannot force people to value you the way you value them. What I gained from walking away was a life I built entirely myself. Not inherited, not expected, not based on anyone else's vision of who I should be. I have people in my life now who choose me every single day. Alex, Jordan, Maya, my community here in Denver. I have self-respect that comes from holding boundaries even when it hurts like fire. What I let go of was the need for certain people to acknowledge my pain. I let go of bitterness, though that took time and hard work. I let go of the version of myself who thought she needed to be perfect, to be loved. The unexpected gift was that my parents' late accountability gave me some closure, but I did not need it to be whole. I was already whole by the time they apologized. My life now is good. I am happy most days. I am still healing on some days. I am grateful every single day. Walking away from people who hurt you is not cruel. It is survival. Sometimes it is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. I do not know what happens next with my parents. I do not know if I will ever fully trust the way I did before all of this. But I know I chose myself when no one else would. That decision saved my life. I am standing at my apartment window right now, looking out at the mountains. Cooper asleep at my feet, and my future is uncertain but completely mine. Have you ever had to cut off family members to protect yourself? How did you know it was the right decision? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I would love to hear your stories. If this resonated with you at all, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to choose yourself. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you find the strength to set the boundaries you need. Wishing you healing, peace, and the courage to walk away from anyone who does not treat you with the love and respect you deserve.